probably tell from a lot of my videos, I use a lot of sketchbooks and I've owned a lot of sketchbooks. These are all completed. I'm also working in all of these. I have a pile under this desk of old used sketchbooks for rough sketches, and then these are all of the books that I save for writing. Probably noticed that I usually work in a sketchbook like this most of the time, or at least those are the kinds of videos that I post. They're usually sketchbook tours or me working in this kind of sketchbook, just because I think that they're more visually interesting, because I use them as art journals and I use them as a place to practice different mediums and to experiment with paper crafts. So that's usually why I only really share this sketchbook, and also because I think I work in the sketchbook in a more timely manner. Ever since starting working in sketchbooks like this, I can usually finish them in at most 3 years, at the least 1 year. And so I have a lot of things to show off from this one sketchbook. And I don't usually share my other sketchbooks just because they're messier and they don't really make sense to the average person. Because of that, I thought that a good idea for a video would be where I work in a different kind of sketchbook for every day of the week, including my iPad, so that you guys could see what my general process is like. For this video, I chose to work in my regular everyday sketchbook slash art journal. I don't really work on it every single day, but it is the one that I gravitate to the most because I get to do a lot of different kinds of things and it's really appropriate for different kinds of mediums. So I know that we've all seen it before, but you're gonna see it again. I also chose this small Artica sketchbook that I used to practice anatomy. This sketchbook that is exactly the same as the other one, except much bigger, that I also used to practice anatomy. They're different kinds of practice, I promise. This gorgeous watercolor sketchbook that I have not used since I got it for Christmas this year. My big sketchbook that I only use for rough sketching. My incredibly neglected notebook that I use to write down ideas for original characters. And last but not least, my iPad. I don't actually use my iPad as a sketchbook, but I had some commissions that I had to finish that week, so I might as well include it in my day-to-day art video. I wish I could have started this video in a way that made sense. I wish I could have maybe began this video by working in my rough sketchbook and then moving on to my anatomy sketches or my journal, and then working in my art journal and finishing with my iPad. But this week was actually pretty hectic. I had a trip planned. I had things that I had to accomplish way before then. A friend came to visit. And I also had several commissions that I had to work on, including these two pet portraits that you can see right now. And so I figured I might as well make it as realistic as possible. Even though throughout the video, I am probably only showing off one sketchbook for every day, I'm probably working on all of the sketchbooks and my iPad at the same time throughout the week. And this pet portrait is a good example of that. I really only recorded myself working on this pet portrait on that one day. So you only get to see this part of the process video. I actually upload the full time lapse on TikTok and on Instagram, probably way before I even get to upload this video. So if you want to see the complete pet portrait, I would suggest following me on social media because I'm really proud of them. But this is pretty much the only thing that I got to record from this specific day. If you're wondering about this specific commission, though, it's because I had pet portrait commissions and couples commissions open for Valentine's Day. I'm actually really shocked that I didn't get any couples commissions. I only got pet portrait commissions, which shouldn't be that surprising. People seem to really love getting pictures of their pets made, but I was expecting at least one couples commission for Valentine's Day. I do think it's really sweet, though, that a lot of the pet portrait commissions that I got were Valentine's Day themed. Oh, and jumping off of that, if you want a commission from me, I had to close commissions around February 10th just so I could do some other things that I had planned. And so if you really want a commission from me, please let me know. I will let you know when I have the time, and I'll probably upload another commission sheet soon. And if you're interested in book art or book cover design, I have an agent that you can go through. I'm pretty sure that by the time I upload this video, it will be Valentine's Day, or that Valentine's Day has already come and gone. And usually for Valentine's Day, I try to draw my little food girls. I draw characters that I base off of breakfast food or Valentine's Day candy. And this year I didn't get to do that. So just take my little cat pet portraits as my Valentine's Day video for 2024. Also, considering I didn't get to do food girls this time, if there are any suggestions for food girls that are not Valentine's Day related, please let me know, because I feel like I could do some more. I kind of miss doing it. I did some around Christmas and it was really fun, and I would have liked to do some for February, but it just wasn't in the cards. So if there's any other kinds of events that you think I can do food girls for, please tell me in the comments. I think I said this in my Christmas video, but I think I need to start doing more holiday themed art. And I usually struggle with non-Halloween events of the year because I am trying to figure out what my imagery is, what my themes are for specific holidays, because I'm not usually into like the cutesy heart, lovey-dovey, romantic Valentine's Day, but I'm also not into the anti-Valentine's, everything sucks kind of thing either. Like, I just want to draw maybe some cute little outfits or maybe food themed thing. Last year's video, in my opinion, was a pretty good example of that. I drew Morticia and Gomez Adams. I drew Frankenstein and a mermaid. I drew a bunch of girls themed after Valentine's Day candy. Any suggestions would be fine. As you can see, Monday was pretty rainy, and I actually had some things that I had to do in the afternoon. I had to go somewhere, and so I figured I might as well have some cozy sketch time and not take it too seriously. So I decided to work in my concept art sketchbook because I had some ideas for some illustrations that I'd like to do. I don't know if I'm going to do them. I like to call this sketchbook my concept art sketchbook, which sounds really fancy, but it's really not. Anything that I make, I usually start by sketching it out in here. So I don't care if it's necessarily all that ugly. I don't care if the features make any sense, if the anatomy makes any sense. It's really just so that I can figure out what will a character be wearing, or what will a character look like, or what's the composition for an illustration. If I have a crafting project or a sewing project, I start by sketching out what I think it could look like here, maybe what the pattern should look like. So I don't really care about anything being too good in here. For Monday's drawing session, I think I was just figuring out what I was going to do in a possible illustration. I don't even know if I'm going to work on it yet. And I know that it's early, but what I'm probably going to be wearing for Halloween. I know that it's early. I know that it's insane, but I've been having this idea roll around in my brain for quite some time. So I figured I might as well sketch it out now and then come back to it when I probably start sewing in summer. I love using my sketchbook to figure out sewing projects because I'm very new to sewing, and so I usually write down literally every single idea that I have so that I can then figure out if it's even doable, like what clasps or what buttons should I use, or is this even possible for me to make with my sewing expertise, which is not much. I also just write down notes for myself in general in this sketchbook. If I'm working on an illustration, I like to write down what colors I might use because I'm not really a color palette girl. I kind of figure that out as I go unless there's like a very specific color that I know I need to use specifically. I like to write down what I could change in a composition if I need to do a plan B. When I'm working on a specific illustration that involves me having to make up what the characters look like, I like to do a lot of research in the sketchbook and write down all of my influences, or possible like face claims or something so that I can figure out what they're going to look like and who I can use as reference. Or I like to do those little balloons, like those little word balloons, so that I can figure out what themes I can go into, what other things I can sketch out. I also tend to use the sketchbook to design stickers or to figure out book pages or to figure out what my list is going to be for a specific art challenge. And I think that's why I don't really share it all that often, because one, the art makes no sense unless I'm here to explain it, or two, it's things that I literally cannot show until specific time. And then the last thing that I use the sketchbook for during this little session is to figure out certain projects, specifically what I'm going to be making out of cardboard for a future event and for Comic-Con. I need to sketch out the designs that I'm going to make for signs that I'm going to put up, and for a future project, I don't really even know if this is exactly what I'm going to be drawing. I just wanted to sketch it out so that I had the idea somewhere in case I need to refer back to it. And this part of the page is just me figuring out the signs that I mentioned that I was going to have to make for Comic-Con, because I do think it's a really good idea. I've done something like this before on my wall, and I think it could work. I think the only thing that I need to figure out is the weight of it all, because I'm thinking of just putting it on the table, like hanging from the tablecloth. And if it's not too heavy, it could be a really good kind of like illusion that matches the art that I already make. Or it could just be really heavy and be an extra burden. So I need to figure that out ASAP. And I'm not going to be here until March again. So it's something that I definitely need to focus on when I get back. If you guys actually enjoy this phase in a project, which I like to call the ideation phase, then maybe it's something that I could include in future videos, because I personally really like it when artists show me their concept sketches and then show me what that ended up becoming. But I know some people find it really boring. So I think my next few videos are probably going to be crafting videos, or at least videos where I make something. So if you guys are actually interested, I might show it next time. Tuesday morning was pretty dark and rainy, and even though I would have loved to just sketch and sit and be cozy all day, I kind of had to use most of Tuesday to finish up those pet portraits, and so I only got to work in the sketchbook in the morning. That being said, I'm still really proud of myself, because I realized that I hadn't worked in the sketchbook since early September 2023, and it's been very neglected, and I was very happy with what I was able to sketch out. It doesn't feel like I was that rusty. This sketchbook is designated for hands, feet, and ears, because I feel like if I have themes for every single sketchbook, I'm more likely to practice those things, and I don't often practice hands, feet, and ears, and so that's what I usually do in here. The problem is that usually I only take the sketchbook out with me in my tote bag when I have to do very specific errands, and since I haven't had to do that in a while, I feel like it's very neglected. So I really want to make it a habit to practice drawing shoes and to practice how fingers work more often. Wednesday was pretty busy too. I had a big meeting in the afternoon, and so I spent the morning working in my watercolor sketchbook. I decided to do my watercolor sketchbook because it felt like something that didn't require a lot of planning. It didn't require a lot of sketching or a lot of thinking, really. I say as someone who sucks at watercolor, and I really just wanted to play around with the mediums because I had never used the sketchbook before, and I wanted to see what it could handle. I wanted to see if it could take ink all that well. I wanted to see if it could handle markers, maybe, just to see what can and can't work before I continue. I did cheat a bit, I guess, if you want to consider this some kind of challenge. It wasn't really, but I did watercolor on it first so that it would already have color when I actually got to work on it. So I did 4 pages because I thought that's the most that I'm going to be able to do in one day. I did just kind of a wash in the first spread, and then in the next spread, I focused on putting a lot of color so that I could have different kinds of blobs, because I thought a good way to start working on the sketchbook and to have a general idea of what mediums I could use would be to use the first 2 pages as sort of a journaling and a actual drawing practice, and then use the next 2 as just blobs where I get to just sketch out whatever it is that I see. I'm already starting to tell that this sketchbook cannot handle something like a Sharpie. It bleeds through almost immediately. And I can use pen, but I need to use a pen that isn't as delicate, because I noticed that after using it so long, it kind of looked like it was kind of dying on me, but it was fine on regular paper. So I need to figure out what kind of pens people use when they do watercolor on something like this, because I'm not an expert on watercolor. I did have a lot of fun doing this though, and I'm pretty sure you can tell also that highlighters do not work on this. Out of the 2 spreads, I definitely preferred doing this one. I think I finally got to do the whole blob, draw what you see thing correctly. I've tried to do that in my regular sketchbook with marker, and it just never feels authentic because the shapes feel too clean no matter what I do. So I think I can finally do it here, and I really like it. I might honestly just do this for the rest of the sketchbook unless I get bored. If I'm not mistaken, Thursday was mostly Zoom meetings and laundry, so I got to do a lot of journaling in my sketchbook. This specific spread is just me using the original art that I had made for a project that I had from January to February, where I tried to work on zines and other things for upcoming events and conventions, and I didn't know what to do with the original art, but I wanted to keep it, so I decided to cut out my favorites and put it in one spread. I also had some other things that I wanted to journal about, like how I did an art trade with a friend on TikTok, how I got some stickers in the mail that I had ordered and they didn't come out exactly how I wanted, what I was reading that month, and how I went to the thrift store with a friend and I bought a pair of pants. They were only worth $5. Also journaled about my upcoming work trip, which I should be on by the time I upload this video, and about the pet portraits that I had just finished that week. All of the stickers on the left page are from the art trade that I did or my own stickers for an upcoming event. And all of the stickers on the right page are stickers that I already had in my stash or that I got when I ordered new stickers as freebies. I also added in this little Star Wars Valentine's Day card that I had lying around just to journal about the fact that while I'm over there, Valentine's Day has happened, because I like to keep things in chronological order. A lot of people ask how I stick in fold-out pages, and it's just tape. And I know that I already mentioned that I did an art trade, and I'm going to put their name in the description so that you guys can check them out too. But if you're wondering where I got the bust sticker and the sticker of the girl reading in her like nightgown, it is from Moody Noon Studio. After that, I decided to draw something because I knew that if I was going to leave my sketchbook here while I went on my work trip, that I wasn't going to draw in it for a while, and I wanted to go all out because for most of the week I had only been sketching or doing really simple drawings, and I really wanted to use my markers. So I essentially did a spread where I did one page where I just used alcohol markers and Posca pens, and then the other page was just in Posca pens because I didn't want the alcohol to bleed through into what I had just journaled. Since I have no intention of turning this drawing into something that I'm going to sell someday, I ended up just using references from Pinterest for both pages because I have a Pinterest board that's just photo references for when I want to practice. I have them divided into different categories. Some admittedly would only really make sense to me, but I have things like lighting and shadow, interesting faces, couples, or posing. I also have a specific section of that same board that's just objects or environments. I originally wanted to have the same level of detail for everything in the image, but as I was drawing, I started to realize how fun the color choices were because the drawing was very orangey, so I decided to just make the face as naturalistic as possible and then make the clothing just really graphic and not really focus on making every individual bead look like a bead. And there's not much to say about the Posca pen drawing. I just really like vintage clocks. Friday was finally sunny, and I actually had a lot to do that day, including a bunch of Zoom meetings, so I decided to spend the morning just journaling. I wouldn't call myself a writer per se, but it is something that I like to do for fun every now and then. And I really like inventing characters. Do I know what those characters are going to be doing? No, but I know the vibes. And so I have a lot of Pinterest boards that are just about original characters that I like to draw every now and then. And I had this journal that I specifically got to write down the stories for those characters, and then I just never do. So I thought, since I was going to make a sketchbook video, that I could use one day to just fill up my journal with everything about my characters so far. Because Pinterest recently created this thing where you can make your own collages. I don't know if this is new, but it's new for me. And ever since I found out, I've made a collage based off of every single character board that I've ever made. I kind of have one Pinterest board where I have characters that are all from the same universe, and these are all from that one. And then I have another one that's just characters for maybe possible kids' books someday, and I haven't printed those out because I think they still need some work. These characters, however, I've been working on since I was in college, so I want to say since 2018. So they keep changing and growing, and since I've mostly just been changing them around every now and then when I doodle or when I include something else in the Pinterest board, I haven't really written anything down. So I've kind of given every single one of them a brief summary and then just the collage as the image of each page so that I can kind of remember if I ever change something to go back to what the origin was and figure that out, because I feel like I can't write an actual story until I plot everything out and know every single character as a person. I know that some people can just write as they go and keep expanding from there, but I'm definitely a plotter. The only downside, I think, to having these little Pinterest mood board collages is that a lot of these characters have a very specific look in my head that I just can't capture in a drawing just yet, because I feel like I need to really plot out what the story is before I can design the characters 100%. And so sometimes I don't have a person in mind. I know what I want them to look like, but there's no one that I know that looks like that. So bear in mind that some of these collages are just going to have some random celebrity as a placeholder for what they look like until I finally do character concept art. Especially since a lot of the times I have a very specific kind of body type in mind, and it's Pinterest, so it just keeps giving me the same kinds of models. But I definitely suggest doing that if you don't know where to start with a character, and it's really fun. Saturday was the last day of the week for this little challenge, and I realized that I still needed another sketchbook, and I originally intended on using this sketchbook as another art journaling sketchbook once I'm done with my regular one, because I keep hoarding it for that exact purpose. But I've since realized that I really don't like the size, so I've decided to turn this sketchbook into an anatomy and posing practice sketchbook. I've only used this sketchbook once, and it was to figure out what kinds of couples commissions I was going to offer for Valentine's Day, and then I ended up scrapping it because I thought making digital commissions would be easier, and so I didn't know what else to do in the sketchbook, and I ended up just using it as a gesture drawing practice session. I tried to find a life drawing session on YouTube, but I couldn't find any that I liked, so I ended up just using the internet and finding random poses and trying to draw them as quickly as possible, which is really hard because I can't time myself because I record my videos with my phone. Overall, I had fun, and it's definitely a habit I want to keep because I want to be able to see the progress from when I first started using the sketchbook to when I finish it. I really want to be able to get poses down quicker and cleaner. I hope you enjoyed a week in my many sketchbooks, and hopefully I can make more videos once I'm back, probably around March. Thanks for watching.